Hey everyone, Flo from OFTWOLANDS here, and today we're going to talk about the new Blackmagic Pyxis 12K again and compare it to the previous version, the 6K. Since the announcement of the Pyxis 12K and the content I've shared, a lot of people have asked me which one I prefer or which one I would choose between it and the previous one. So I thought I would make this video to share who I think these cameras are for. I'm going to focus on their similarities, their differences, and the pros of each of these cameras. I will also share some examples of side-by-side footage to compare resolution and dynamic range, and I will also briefly show the difference when it comes to rolling shutter, as well as ISO. And before I start, don't forget to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's get into it. This video is sponsored by Motion Array. The Pyxis 6K has been my main camera for nearly a year now, and I've used it for all sorts of content, such as short documentaries, spec ads, outdoor content, and also personal. Before the Pyxis, the Cinema Camera 6K and the 6K Pro had been my main cameras for a few years. I actually really enjoy the pocket shape, as it is a very versatile format with a beautiful image and made it an easy choice for me as a solo shooter, especially outdoors. This is why I always use my Cinema Camera 6K anytime I travel. Since having the Pyxis, it became my A-cam for pretty much everything else. The same amazing sensor and image as the Cinema Camera 6K, but in a more versatile, rugged, and riggable box-shaped body. And it's been great so far. Earlier this year, I got the incredible opportunity to also work on the launch of the new Ursa Cine 17K 65, and I really enjoy the experience and the body shape. And a few months ago, I got the chance to also get my hands on the Ursa 12K LF, which borrowed a lot from the 17K, but had that new 12K full frame sensor. This sensor is absolutely incredible. From the texture to the dynamic range, it's probably my favorite one, as it still allows me to shoot 3x2 open gate, a format that I have come to embrace and love since the release of the Cinema Camera 6K nearly 2 years ago. Then of course, as you know, earlier this year, the Pyxis 12K was announced. Essentially, taking the amazing sensor from the Ursa 12K LF, removing a few things and putting it inside the Pyxis body. Best of both worlds in my opinion. So in this video, I want to compare the two versions of the Pyxis because I believe it is probably the most considered option when looking at Blackmagic cameras this year. Also, if you are interested in the accessories or my rigs, I will link everything below in the description. I also want to mention that the camera that I'm using at the moment is a beta version, so it might be slightly different than a full production one. Now let's jump into the comparison. The first similarity is of course the design. Both the 6K and 12K share essentially the same body. From the shape and size to the buttons layout and the screen on the side, they look identical aside from the badge at the front. You also have the same media type, ports and battery option. They can also use the same accessories such as the EVF, the top handle, and of course the monitor. I also use the same cage and cable from Celsius on both cameras. Both cameras are also available with the same mounts, which are PL, L, and locking EF. I have the original Pyxis in L and at the moment the 12K in PL. The sensors are also both 3x2 with various options when it comes to resolution. The menu system is also very similar and super easy to use. And both cameras shoot only B-RAW. One other thing they have in common is the lack of internal NDs. And finally, they both offer amazing features, image and specs for their respective prices. But of course, these cameras have also a lot of differences despite being so close in their looks. The first major difference is of course the sensor. The Pyxis 12K features a 12K full frame sensor, whilst the original Pyxis has a 6K sensor. They are both 3x2, but the difference in resolution is quite significant. To give you an idea of size difference between the two sensors, the original Pyxis sensor is 6048 by 4032, whilst the 12K is 12288 by 8040. The 12K sensor also allows you to shoot 8K and 4K without cropping in on the sensor. The 12K sensor brings another big difference, the dynamic range. You have 16 stops, whereas the Pyxis 6K has 13 stops. The Pyxis 12K also has a native ISO of 800, whilst the Pyxis 6K has a dual native ISO with both 400 and 3200. The frame rates are also quite different between the two cameras. The 12K has a lot of different options and can shoot open gate in 12K at up to 40 FPS, and up to 72 FPS in 8K. It can also do 112 in 8K 2:4:1, which is quite impressive considering the size of the body. On the other side, the Pyxis 6K maxes out at 36 FPS open gate, but you can shoot up to 60 FPS in 2:4:1 in 6K. Another difference is that the 12K can also have the two Blackmagic accessories at the same time, meaning that you can use both the EVF and the monitor at the same time by using the two ports. Now there is also another slight difference between the two cameras. Whilst they use the same media type, CF Express, the 12K is better used with faster cards to accommodate for the extra frame rate and resolution. I use Wise advanced cards for both my cameras. As you can imagine, the Pyxis 12K is of course much more powerful, which means that of course it has an impact on the battery and overall heat. Using the same battery, which is the Core SWX 98 BPU, I get just over an hour on a Pyxis 12K with the monitor, when I can get more than double on a 6K. And the 12K seems to run a bit hotter as well due to the sensor difference. Again, keep in mind that I am using a beta version. And finally, the price. The Pyxis 12K starts at $54.95 before tariffs, and the Pyxis 6K starts at $32.95. Now let's look at the pros of each camera, but before that, here's a quick word about today's sponsor, Motion Array. Motion Array is an all-in-one platform for creators where you can find pretty much everything you need to create videos, from video templates, presets, motion graphics, royalty-free music, sound effects, and they even now have a voiceover feature. As always, I wouldn't tell you guys to use something if I didn't use it myself. If you know me, I'm very particular with the sponsors on this channel. I don't have many, and I want to make sure that every time I share or push something, it is something that is genuinely beneficial for myself and could be for you as well. I've started using Motion Array a few years ago, and since then most of the titles and graphics you have seen in my videos are from Motion Array. I really don't have the skills all the time to create those, so to me it is both a way to add value and save time. For the type of work that I do here on YouTube, I mostly rely on callouts or minimalist animations and templates to give specific information about lenses or cameras, for example. It works very well for tech videos, and I think it makes the video and information more digestible. And of course, all of the main titles in my videos, as well as the animated backgrounds, are from Motion Array. Even my subscribe button is from there. It's the little things like these that I think really give something extra for the viewer and make the whole experience more interactive and engaging. You have access to over 2 million creative assets, and it's super easy to use and nicely laid out. You also have the choice of a monthly or yearly subscription based on your needs. And of course, feel free to use the link in the description to check out Motion Array. First, let's look at the pros of the new Pyxis 12K. To me, the biggest advantage of the 12K is of course the sensor. There is something very special about the 12K sensor. It feels very organic, and it is my favorite from all the Blackmagic cameras I own. Aside from the image, you also get that 16 stops of dynamic range, and it is very impressive. Being used to 13 stops, which is already very useful, having 16 is a massive jump. For some scenes we even had super high contrast, and we were still able to retain a lot of detail and information. For someone like me that shoots a lot outdoors and with natural or available light, this is very important and of course super useful. The ability to also shoot 8K and 4K using the full sensor and without a crop is great and makes the camera very flexible. To be honest, I actually don't really shoot in 12K, and I find 8K to be the perfect option, especially when you need to export in 4K. Slow motion is also on my list of pros, of course. Having shot with the Pyxis and Cinema Camera 6K for quite a bit now, it felt very refreshing and fun to use slow motion again without having to use the larger Ursa Cinis. AK-72 is probably my favorite. And AK-112 is fun and can make for some very interesting shots. And finally, one last and very important pro for the 12K is its versatility. The fact that you can get that extra dynamic range, resolution, and frame rate options in the same body shape makes for a very powerful and versatile camera, especially for the price. For me, the main pro of the Pyxis 6K is its value. For $32.95, what you get is still pretty ridiculous. You get a full-frame 6K camera that shoots RAW, open gate, with anamorphic options, a built-in 4-inch 1500 nit screen, and a bunch of focus and exposure tools, not to mention the color science and compression options. And of course, you still have that great modular system by having all the accessories available. With some deals now, you can actually get two 6K for the price of one 12K version, which is of course an important factor to consider. Now here are a couple of examples to compare resolution and dynamic range between the two cameras. These are not scientific tests of course, but it should give you a pretty good idea. As you can see, the 12K has a lot more resolution and it becomes of course more apparent the more you crop in. Dynamic range is something that is very hard to show or explain, especially because you need to get the exact same shot, but I can assure you that the 12K is well above. We recently shot a project with both the Pyxis 6K and the EOS 12K, and the difference between the two sensors, especially how they handle the shadows and extreme highlight, was quite significant. And now here's a quick comparison of rolling shutter. And now here's a quick comparison when it comes to ISO. As always, I think the choice between the Pyxis 12K and 6K depends on your style of shooting and type of work that you do, and of course, your budget. Both cameras can pretty much shoot any types of projects. The great thing about the new Pyxis 12K is that before, if you wanted certain features like high frame rates or better dynamic range, you had to jump to the bigger body of the Ursa lineup. Now you can have all of that and retain the same smaller footprint of the Pyxis. Now, if you don't need the extra resolution, frame rate options and dynamic range, and of course if you don't have the budget, or if you just love the cinema camera 6K but just want a more modular body, then the Pyxis 6K is still a very solid option. They both offer amazing value for their respective prices, and I think it's great to have a choice between very similar but also very different versions of the same camera. If budget allows, the 12K is of course a much more complete and versatile option, so it would be my preferred choice. That's it for me for today guys, hope this was helpful to you. Again, I will keep sharing content with and from the 12K. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments which one you would go for and why. And as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.